Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yemini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of our homeland, Eretz Yisroel. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may God protect our brave soldiers, and may God return all the hostages from Gaza immediately. This week's Parsha Perspective is in loving memory of my grandmothers, Gittel Bas Asher and Shoshanna Bas Shalom, as well as my aunt, Chana Bas Yehuda, along with Edward Ben Efraim, Shlomo Ben Edward, and Yirachmiel Daniel Ben Gedalia. May their souls be uplifted and may their memories be a blessing. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of the Refuah Shlema of Pesha, Henna, Yitta, Gittel, along with Mordechai ben Rashel. May they experience a swift and complete recovery. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Vayigash, Bring Them Home. Our Parsha begins with Yehuda stepping forward to plead with Yosef for Benyamin's release. In a desperate plea, Yehuda offers himself as a slave in Benyamin's place, explaining that if they returned home without him, their father Yaakov Avinu would succumb to the heartbreak of losing another son. Overcome with emotion, Yosef could no longer contain his secret. He ordered everyone but his brothers to leave the throne room, and through his tears, he tells and reveals his true identity to his brothers, declaring, Ani Yosef Achicha, I am Yosef, your brother. His brothers were left in stunned silence, unable to comprehend that the powerful viceroy of Egypt was the same brother they had sold into slavery so many years ago. Sensing his brother's shock and fear, Yosef reassures them, emphasizing that it was not their actions alone but God's plan that had brought him to Egypt to save the world during the famine. And he urged them to return home and to bring their father Yaakov and their families down to Egypt, where he could care for them for the rest of their lives. When the brothers arrived home with the news that Yosef was alive, Yaakov was initially skeptical. But upon seeing the wagons that Yosef sent, his spirit was revived, as the pasuk states, V'techi ruach Yaakov avim, and the spirit of their father Yaakov was revived. Before departing Egypt, God appears to Yaakov Avinu in a dream and reassures him that I will go down with you to Egypt and I will bring you up again. And comforted by this divine promise, Yaakov gathered his entire family and 70 souls in total and journeyed down to Egypt to reunite with his son after 22 years of separation. However, a question comes to mind. When Yosef speaks about his father, Yaakov Avinu, he refers to him many times as my father rather than our father, Avi instead of Avinu. In his emotional reunion with his brothers, the term seemingly strikes a personal and almost exclusive tone. For example, he declares, Ani Yosef ha'oida avichai, is my father still alive? And later he commands them, Ma'aru va'alu el avi, hurry and go up to my father. Why does Yosef choose this language? Wouldn't it be better to use a more inclusive tone and a more inclusive word? Perhaps even more unifying and saying our father? Was this an intentional choice by Yosef, or was just this the term he used naturally to describe his father? The Sifrono, Rav Ovadia Sifrono, an Italian commentary on the Torah, gives an interesting explanation. And he writes that throughout the entire conversation between Yosef and his brothers, the focus has been on their father Yaakov, and specifically the pain of losing Yosef so many years ago. And Yosef's repeated use of the singular term, my father, was not to exclude his brothers, but to emphasize and bring into focus the immense grief and anguish they caused their father. By speaking this way, Yosef was forcing his brothers to confront the reality of how their actions left their father devastated for decades. Yosef's deliberate phrasing wasn't just a simple choice of words, it was a strategy. The Sifrono explains that Yosef sought to evoke a deeper sense of accountability within his brothers. By saying Avi, my father, instead of Avinu, our father, he personalized the pain and ensuring that they recognized the full weight of their betrayal. And this wasn't just a reminder of Yaakov's sorrow and pain, it was a call to his brothers to take ownership of their role in creating it. However, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory gives a deeper and more profound explanation. In his book Covenant and Conversation, Rabbi Sachs explores the question as to why Yosef never reached out to his father after becoming viceroy of Egypt. Rabbi Sachs explains that while the image of Yaakov Avinu remain deeply ingrained in Yosef's memory, inspiring him to maintain his faith during the darkest of moments. Yosef wrestled with the unanswered questions about his father's role in the events that led up to his suffering. Did Yaakov knowingly send him into danger by instructing him to check on his brothers? Did the Ketonis Hapasim, the special coat that Yaakov gave him, a symbol of favoritism, amplify the jealousy that ultimately became the catalyst for his selling into slavery? And these lingering doubts fueled Yosef's silence and hesitation to reconnect. Now hearing the full story from his brothers, of how Yaakov was heartbroken by the loss of Yosef and lived in unrelenting sorrow and pain, Yosef's perspective shifted drastically. He realized that his father had no knowledge whatsoever of what had truly transpired. Yaakov, heaven forbid, wasn't complicit in Yosef's suffering, but has been in mourning with profound grief, and his joy was extinguished ever since the day that Yosef was torn from his life. And this revelation validated what Yosef had long hoped but never knew specifically and truly. His father's love had never wavered, even in his absence. It is no wonder then that Yosef's first question was about his father's well-being. And when he asks, Avi, is my father still alive? It's not just a simple question. It is laden with longing, with hope, with the deep need to confirm the bond that has sustained him for so many years in slavery. Yosef wanted his brothers to bring Yaakov without delay, yearning to reunite with his father, whose love has been his anchor in the darkest of moments. For Yosef, it was more than just a reunion. It is a restoration of a connection that has been tested but never severed. The knowledge that his father had grieved for him daily gave Yosef the closure he needed and has been seeking. And the first thing he wanted to do and wanted to know and wanted to restore was the bond with his father, a bond that has endured despite betrayal, distance, and years of silence. This profound lesson from Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory echoes a truly tragic and terrifying reality we face today. It has now been 454 days since October 7th, a day that will live in infamy and sorrow throughout history. Among the countless tragedies of that day are the innocent hostages who were kidnapped from their homes and dragged into the dark tunnels of Gaza. With over 100 still in captivity and 34 confirmed to have lost their lives, and the fate of the rest uncertain, it is impossible to fathom the depth of their suffering. I can't even begin to imagine the mindset or perspective of these hostages. Do they know that the entire Jewish world is united in prayer for their safe return? Do they know that millions across the globe are crying out for their immediate redemption and salvation? Do they know that Israel continues to fight tirelessly and sparing no effort to bring them home? And tragically, the terror they are enduring at the hands of these wicked and evil animals is beyond comprehension. And yet I hold on to the hope that somehow they can find a spark of faith within themselves, mirroring the profound hope and faith that sustained Yosef during his 22 years of separation from his father. And through the power of prayer, through the power of the prayer that is united around the world, may God in his infinite kindness, wisdom, and mercy give strength to these hostages and swiftly reunite them with their families and loved ones. Other than the words to bring them home and let them go, I conclude with a part of a prayer, a part of chapter of Tehillim. Shir ha'ma'ila esasayinai elo harim, me'ayin yavi ezri. Ezri me'im adino yo'ise shemayim va'aretz. A song of ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. May we see their immediate salvation and redemption and the ending of this war in Eretz Yisroel and across the diaspora. Have a great and meaningful Shabbos. Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.